right here in Beecher. That's where we are, right?
We are.
Cool. Soleil Harden, Byron Harden, kicking off Blind Awareness Month. So, type of month that, or type of awareness that is for sighted people, really, people with eyesight. I think, I think blind people are already aware of being blind, And I so Soleil, who is my wife, she is fully sighted, fully able-bodied, probably the most intelligent, talented person I know. And me being totally blind, so I see nothing. And I wear the glasses just for protection, not really for anything else, but that having a keratosis prosthesis, which is an artificial cornea. So as for that to not get damaged, I wear sunglasses. However, so I think this month we're going to dispel some myths, educate, and hopefully inspire. I mean, that would be cool, I think. So this is Tuesday, October the 8th. I asked you earlier what the day was, right?
I think you did.
Like I keep forgetting that. I don't even understand that. But one of the things too. So another thing is that people. We talk about limitations and things like that, and limitations normally reside with individuals who believe in them. That's pretty much kind of where they are. So they're limited to that. Right. People will argue, a lot of people would argue that everybody has limitations, and I would say that only if you believe you do, or only if you believe someone else does. Those fit in the same box, right? Normally, if you feel that someone else has a limitation, that means you have one. That's just the way it goes. That's one of the laws of the universe. And it's funny because I go to a lot, go to multiple cigar lounges and stuff like that, and people are amazed. They come up and talk to me, especially if I'm there by myself, and they're wondering how do you smoke this cigar as a blind person. And I tell them I put it between my teeth, I clench and I hold it there, and I pull the smoke into my mouth, and then I blow it out. That's kind of how I do it as a blind person. So I'm gonna just talk about some of the techniques around it real quick. Talk about that in a second. So I have out here lighter. It's the coldest lighter on the planet, of course. Cutter. Okay. Yeah. I'll talk about this cutter. This is special to me now. And then we're gonna drink. We're gonna pair this up today. I'm gonna pair it up. Here's my glass. It's a tilt glass, of course. That makes the whiskey taste better. And then we're gonna drink some scotch with this Nicaraguan tobacco from Esteli, Cundega, Esteli, which is in, of course, I just said Nicaragua, which is the country. That's one of the main countries that's getting tobacco into the United States, based on, of course, Cuba not doing their thing. I try to pour about 2 shots there. That's a double. So I use my ears to hear that, of course. And so I gotta be honest. My favorite tobacco is in Dominican Republic. But today we're going with some scotch, and I like Nicaraguan tobacco with scotch. I like Honduras tobacco also with scotch. This is a Criollo 98, so it's a blend. This is a what they call a Puro. Means all the tobacco was sourced in Nicaragua. Okay, all from the same region, actually. I believe, yeah, in Esteli. This particular, I keep putting it down and picking it up. this particular vitola, which vitola means size. So that's the actual girth, right? Circumference. Right. And then also the length of the cigar. This is what they call a hexagon box press. So it's got six sides, I believe. Yep, that's about right. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, yeah. Okay, there you go. All right, and of course, this is kind of dressed up with some bands on it. Probably got the price tag still on it. I think that's what Soleil told me earlier. It just had the price tag on it. And so, just a couple things about the cigar. This is just the anatomy of the cigar. I believe this, first of all, the actual size of this, like I said, the Vitola is I think it's I want to say this is a 6 by 58, 6 by 60, something like that, right? Normally with this particular Vitola, I like to V-cut it, but today I'm going to do a straight cut because I got a brand new cutter, which is amazing for a lot of reasons. We'll talk about that too as well. This has the foot band on it. This is the foot with the side that you like, right? And then this is the head, right? This is the side that you're going to smoke. Most of the heads have these caps on it. I don't know if this is a triple cap, which is a kind of a Cuban feature. That'll let you know, real Cuban. And this might be a double or triple cap on here. And I'm not gonna get all the way off into cigar
world.
Exactly. I'm still trying to figure this out. Trying to see if it is or not. but okay, so we got the foot band. We take the foot band off. Okay. Most people like to smell it. I've probably smoked in my life of this particular cigar. I would say probably close to about 50 of these in my life.
And what is that?
This is a Plasencia Almaforte. I believe Almaforte stands for something fire. Right.
Why? This is one of your favorite cigars.
It is. It's
Why?
It's very much a celebratory stick. It's a couple of reasons. One, good buddy of mine, my man Marcus. He and I used to smoke all the time, and this was the first stick that he had put me on. He suggested that it be the first stick, which is really interesting because normally people like to start off with a little bit less of a body in the cigar, okay? Meaning intensity, all right, and flavor. This is a medium to full body stick, but the aroma is incredible. It's super floral, which is interesting because this is a really peaty Scotch. So this is going to be a crazy pairing. Peaty for the Scotch means that it's smoky, right? But it goes good post the palate or pre the palate. And I'm talking about the Scotch. After you pull on the cigar, which once you pull on the cigar, you keep the smoke in your mouth, release it, and then you take a sip of Scotch, and that taste right there is pretty epic. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. But in any event, lighting a cigar, cutting a cigar as a blind person is a whole world. This is something that is not intuitive at all. So what I do, first of all, I use this cutter with a back plate on it. This was gifted to me earlier today by a very good friend of mine named Rocky over at Godfather Cigars right there on Dixie Highway in Beecher, Illinois. If you're ever riding by on Dixie Highway, it is the only in Main Street in Beecher. No, it's not the only street, but it is the only street with street lights on it, like actual traffic lights. Right? We got 3 traffic lights in the town of Beecher, and they're all on Dixie Highway. And he is at the middle traffic light at that. So check him out if you're riding by there. But I told him that for a blind person, a cutter that has a backstop on it is the business. You got some cutters out there that, you know, you can look straight through once you open it up. Which this is a guillotine cut, so it's a straight cut. Not as sexy as like the, you know, some of the other cuts. You know, like the V cut is a really sexy cut. And they call it sexy just because it's a little bit more complex, right? The blade. But this is an amazing weight on this particular cutter, which also helps with severing the tobacco properly. It gives you a nice even way with it. What's really important about and I'm saying this from the blindness perspective, what's really important, and you guys probably are not going to be able to see this, but there's the spacing that the blade slides up under between the actual ring and the back plate is really, really thin on this particular cutter, which is a really good thing, because you're going to have less of a chance to mess the head up on the cigar. Okay, I have another one of these cutters, and it's plastic, and that space is much more. It's a more robust space. It you know, and so what that does is it chops more of the tobacco off, and it's a plastic, so it doesn't have a lot of weight. So the blade technology is a little strange on it at best, but I've learned how to work with that one. But now I am putting it to rest. So no more of that since I got this. And I'd say this cut is probably, and this is a Drew Estate, no, Liga Privada. I think this is a Liga cutter. So this is going to be my go-to on my straight cuts. So of course we go to the head here. Then the cool thing is you put it in there, okay, straight, like so. And I make sure that it's flat. I feel it. Because if you see, the head has a little flat point on it.
Wait, let me get that. Show it again. Okay.
Okay, so that head is going to go right to this back plate, and it's going to stop there. And I want it to feel, I want to get this perpendicular approach to it. And it never takes me this long, right? I mean, I'm just showing you guys. And then I'm going to squeeze the guillotine, boom, cut. Okay, there it is. Now, that's probably pretty. Oh, yeah, it's pretty. Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Okay. It's amazing. I mean, one time I was in the lounge and I cut the cigar, and I did a cold draw. And the cold draw is exactly what I just did, right? Took the cigar, cut it, and I pulled on it to taste it, right? Before anything else, before, you know, putting any kind of combustion to it, right? Any kind of fire to it, any kind of heat. And the dude said, "Oh, let me light that for you. It's not lit yet. It's not lit yet." Now I pulled on the cigar about 5 times, and then he came over. He's like, "That's why you're not getting any smoke." I was like, "No, I'm just cold draw. I'm just you know, doing a cold draw here." He was like, I was like, "This is a cold draw." So,
He didn't know what a cold draw was. So, his ignorance around it.
Sure, was a limitation. Which we'll talk
Instead,
about.
he thought it was your limitation around lack of eyesight.
Yes.
As though you can't perceive temperature and feel heat.
Sure, or even taste the smoke.
Or taste the smoke.
Wow. So yeah. I'm not saying we don't want help as blind people, but I am saying, hey, just ask. It's cool. You know, would you like some help with that? Oh, no, I'm good. And then you got those folks that'll say, no, let me help you. If they say they're good, say, hey, okay, cool. It's nice meeting you. My name is so-and-so, so-and-so. If you do need some help, I'm over here to your left, right, up the center, behind you, wherever you are. Okay, cool. Makes sense. So what I do, I'm gonna go ahead and light this stick. Another reason I like this stick is because it is a 6-sided box press, and so it allows me to guide my hand to the foot to go ahead and light the head. Okay, so this is something that, you know, as a blind person, this took a lot of getting used to, and then sometimes it's still problematic because you got to evenly light the foot. If you don't, it is the most nerve-wracking experience. Before I light the foot, one more thing, and that is I'm going to leave the ring band on here until I smoke it down to right before it. Okay, it'll be just shy of the ring band. All right, that is just to show respect to the constructors, the rollers, the blender. All right, which I don't really know. I forgot who blended these Amafortes.
You might have to add that in.
Yeah. Okay. I'll wait till the bell start ringing so I can explain. But
You want to talk about, give a quick explanation for the bell? It is a unique feature.
it is. Feature, so it rings on the hour every hour between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. And so, and then it chimes at like 3:30, 5:30, 6:30, and maybe even 6:30. 6:30, 5:30, 3:30, sometimes 4:30. It depends on the day. 7:30. No, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, which is when the kids when they go to school. And so by the time they finish chiming the song, they should be in class. But you still see a bunch of them running around trying to get to class. Okay, so to light the cigar, that's what we're gonna do. First things first, I am going to put the head in my mouth. I'm gonna clench it. Okay, this is just proper etiquette. I kind of hold the cigar between my index finger and my middle finger, and I'm gonna put the head in between my teeth like such. Creep around there like that. And then you close your lips and you'll pull. As I'm lighting the cigar, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull on it to draw oxygen through, to help even the flow, right? Which is another thing that I'm checking on the cold draw is the actual flow. Cigars that are rolled too tight, the tobacco's too tight, it's not a good experience. If you see people like this,
No, okay. Everybody's seen it. They have seen it. They have seen it.
The tobacco's too tight. The tobacco's too tight. Grab you a skewer or something and just shove it down in there and get you some oxygen. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'm also roll the cigar, this kind of like this. And then I'm gonna wave at the same time. I'm gonna wave my lighter, which this is a unique lighter. I suggest this is only a dual flame. I usually like triple and quadruple flames, but this is a dual flame. But I suggest this for blind people as well because one, it is very easy to navigate. You see, I got my thumb here. I know that this lid is going to open up in the fire once it ignites. Of course, that's when you get your flame. And so I can, put my thumb up there. This metal part will get hot, but the way you fill this up, because it's a butane lighter, of course, we are not using any type of anything. We will light it with cedar. You could use matches, but butane is the way to go. So I'm not going to get deep into that. However, nice, rugged, like kind of ruffled button here, the little texture there, the ridges. That's great for a blind person because now you're not going to slip off the button. Okay, You slip off the button, now this comes here, it burns your hand, it does whatever, falls in your lap, catch on fire, whatever. The unique thing about this particular lighter is that it also lights upside down. Okay, so most lighters will not do that because obviously, I mean, for the obvious reason of physics, chemistry, the whole nine. So what I do is I put the cigar in my mouth, of course, clench, and then I'm gonna take my thumb and rub it against the bottom of the cigar until I get to the edge right here. That lets me know how much space I have to deal with to light the cigar, right? So that's what I do. I'm already tasting it. And I'll do it one more time.
It's interesting. You can't really see the color of the flame. Just a little bit at the end, which was interesting. Yeah. So that was actually kind of good.
You see that?
You see the effects, yes. Yeah, you can see the flame quite a bit now.
So I usually put it right here like this on the side of my face. Take about 3 or 4 pulls to understand. I'm a right-handed smoker, so I take my left hand, run it down the shaft to the edge, and twist it to assure that I'm getting an even burn. Very, very important. I'm telling you.
So what happens if you discover that you're not getting an even burn?
I'll go back in, and the part that is not burning well, I'll turn it to the bottom. Okay. We all know heat rises, but something in the cigar will self-correct if it's not that. If you only got half of it lit, yeah, no, it's not going to self-correct. But if you got at least 3/4 of it lit, it's been my experience that having that cigar, that part that's not burning towards the bottom, definitely 100% corrects it for me. And it's really interesting because this is a pretty savory stick. And I'm going to check on it again because I don't want to get too far out of control. If I did, because it feels good on my face. And that's a technique that people would have to really, really work with. First of all, you don't want to burn yourself, especially if you got like locks or something. And second of all, how do you know it's even? Well, you can feel it, right? Because on my one hand, I'm feeling the proximity of the stick to my face in the sense that I'm talking the diameter of it, the girth. And so I said, oh, I can tell I don't really have it well lit up here up top as much as I have it well lit, as much down, at this portion of it, which I'm calling the bottom. I'm trying not to call it top and bottom because it's a doggone cylinder. So.
So as you're talking now, it's bringing up a couple things. So one, it's a level of detail that you describe from just giving your attention to a particular scent, like heat, what it's doing, the warmth on your face, all of that. That's not something that most sighted people do, is put a lot of focus on their other senses. So what I'm wondering, and we have these conversations, which is kind of bringing up some of the things that come up in our conversations to things that sighted people don't know and things that sighted people don't usually consider. and may benefit, from having some curiosity around. So what I said all that to say, how do you feel? How do you experience yourself as a person without physical eyesight and utilizing your other senses? Like right now, like with your taste, I'm curious, just what you taste or how you experience the notes of the cigar or the spirit that may be different than how a sighted person would, because you have had sight, and so you have been sighted twice and you have been without sight twice, physical sight anyway.
Yeah.
So what are the distinctions for you when you've had, like, for instance, with taste, how you experience taste? Because again, there's this myth, I guess, around, we could, I guess,
Look at
debunk.
something.
Myth number one, we can debunk. You don't hear better than sighted people as a blind person. It's a matter of attention, correct? Okay. And it does come off to a sighted person as though you hear better. But it's not in degree as though you have hearing akin to blind people hear better than sighted people, or hear things that sighted people don't hear as much as some dogs hear a dog whistle and humans don't.
Right.
Like, we treat it like that sometimes. As opposed to the fact that we as sighted people tend to pay a lot less attention to our other senses and really hone in on our eyesight as our primary sense in a lot of cases. Some people don't, because some people obviously are auditory learners, or some may be kinesthetic learners.
Right.
But even in those cases where there's sight, there is still a heavy dependence on the sight. To kind of almost reinforce what you know.
Yeah.
Or what you think you know.
Still getting a taste here, but yeah, that yeah, that's a true statement. What I would say for me and my other senses, I haven't even when I had sight, I did not disconnect my senses from each other. They all stayed congruent. They stayed unified. I remember I used to drive a Wrangler, a Jeep, and when I would have the top all the way off, doors off, I'm still using my ears to hear behind me, to hear in the blind spot. But you're supposed to be driving using your eyes. But I noticed that I would do that, and one day I went to switch lanes, and I just noticed I didn't look in the side view mirror. I heard, whoa! I gotta stop doing that, But it was like a thing after being blind for from 7 to 16. I was I had that now I'm aware, you see. And same thing with smell. When we riding in the truck and I smell something, is that's electrical? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that fuel? What was that? Okay. Then I start using my brain. I say, okay, I'm just now smelling it. Like yesterday, I was like, babe, was that a gas station when we went past? She was like, oh, that was an auto repair place.
Right.
Now there was no noise at that auto repair place, but I could smell the gas. It was the same thing when I could see. It was the same exact thing. So, riding along the road and listening, even I'm talking like driving as a sighted person, and being like, oh man, that person, transmission is slipping in their car, or
yes,
just different things.
Yes,
Stuff
that usually as a sighted person you're not paying attention to. You're not drawing any sort of conclusion necessarily around the sounds that you hear, what it is.
Right.
You're not identifying it based on the sound of it.
Not at all. By the way, the cigar is burning. Freaking amazing. Incredible. Stemcabulous. With the peaty scotch. To go. 2 pound. They doing like this. They like, both of them, they like that. Like when I was pouring that, the scotch. That's what when I used to pour as a sighted person, I would still listen to the glass. How, it being filled with the liquid. Which then translate over into my feel, right? The tactile things, even the tactile nature, and even that looking at the intangible tactile nature. So people are like, oh, what do you mean by that? That's spatial awareness. Walk in a room and say, oh yeah, just not even nothing but just to walk in there and feel it, which is the intangible tactile nature, is really it's really one of those things where spatial awareness is probably at one of its highest, since at its highest point in 3D. Sometimes I'll tap my cane just to get an idea. When we go to these museums and stuff like that, it's fascinating to hear to hear the height of the ceiling. Placencia is not paying us for this either, but.
Or is the lighter brand? Or the cutter.
Nor the cutter.
Or the scotch.
Or the yeah. What's up with these folks? Nor the tilt glass, nor the ashtray. But you know what? If you get one of these lighters, cigar is kind of cigar smoking is a little bit of a expensive. It could be an expensive thing. This lighter right here is $70. This cutter is probably a good $80. I mean, normally that's probably what they would cost, but for something like that. The Calibre, Calibre, I think that's what they call it. You can get cutters for $200-$300, and it's all around the blade technology, material, stuff like that. I got one downstairs that's $75, and it was. I say these prices because I think people have to understand that. It really adds to the experience of smoking a cigar. Because you want it cut well, you want it treated well, so you want your humidor to act as a really comfortable environment for your sticks. I'm smoking this cigar directly out of the store, and he doesn't put his Almafortes in cellophane. He just lets them be. And in the humidor, and his humidor is in such good condition that I smoke it directly out of his store. And I think that in the future we're going to do a video with Rocky on how, as a salesman, as a store owner, as a business owner, how do you service your blind customers? Because I think that's a big thing too.
Yeah. You
Again,
really
we're going to experience.
that.
There's going to be some more limitations exposed there too. You know what's funny is
Because the illumination is important, right? Like around Blind Awareness Month, because oftentimes as sighted people, we're not aware of our blind spots,
yeah,
particularly as it relates to uniquely able people, because we are siloed very early on, where we don't have experiences or education or information about uniquely able people unless,
we grew up with one.
yes.
Yeah. You know, that's
And oftentimes because there are blind schools and deaf schools, so then unless it's someone that was in you're away at school also, right? So
yeah.
you're in a different community. So these communities don't oftentimes have a lot of opportunities for interaction unless perhaps it's a family member, especially in your younger life,
Yeah.
or maybe someone you went to church with.
But even those folks still don't have a good grasp. You know, a good percentage of the time, because what they've done is they've still dealt with it the way that they wanted to deal with it. It's funny how you know, one thing that we don't do a lot of times is for able-bodied people, you know, it's like a lot of full able-bodied people have the ability to meet people where they are, but they won't even do that, and that's a limitation.
How do you mean?
Well, whether it's education or you know, socioeconomical or socioeconomics, or you know, religion or spirituality, or you know, politics, you know, any of those things that could be politicized. You know what I mean?
So what would that look like?
That would look like a Muslim and a Christian getting married. That would look like a blind person and a sighted person getting married. That would look like a quadriplegic and a full able-bodied person playing polo together. You know, that would be like a sighted producer working with, you know, or a blind producer working with sighted artists. You know, and what you do is you the reason why you would even consider these folks is because you have to widen up your senses, your ability to receive and communicate, the outgoing, you know, receive and outwardly communicate with multiple senses.
You know, I think there's something that I will really say as a sighted person surprised me was when, you know, I moved here from it's a new area, new experience, a new geography. So I'm unfamiliar with it, even though it looks familiar to my hometown. It is unfamiliar. It's not my hometown. So I don't know the streets. I don't even, frankly, initially didn't even know the directions, right? Like, where am I?
Yeah.
You know. And also coming from the West Coast, California, Northern Cal specifically, we don't give directions by north, south, east, and west. That is not how we give directions. That's not our sense of that's not our sense of the compass. So it's very interesting to come and, you know, have to adapt. You know, this is where I had to really adapt to how people give directions, and people expect you to know north, south, east, west. Where are you? What direction are we traveling in right now? You know, what direction is the train coming from? Right? What direction does this highway travel?
It's very important to know, because say you couldn't see, or let's say you were in the woods and there's just no frame of reference but trees and sky and dirt or soil, depending on how you look at it, whatever it is. birds are chirping, animals are bustling about. How do you know which direction to go? And this is something that was lost when a lot of the technology started coming into place, you know. And one thing Northern Californians do that I do like is they'll say, you know, towards the water, or, you know, whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That is a lot of our orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Is really kind of towards the water, away from the water.
Yeah.
And even if we don't say, we normally will, you know, away from the water sometimes, or towards the water. We know that water is west, right? We know that is the westernmost point. I mean, that's Land's End. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been there to Land's End in the city. It's an interesting experience to be like, I'm at Land's End, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet we know we're on the East Bay, so that's how we know it's the West Bay, because we know we live in East Bay, for instance, or that's the North Bay, or that's the South Bay. We do know that, but we don't usually give directions that way. So
see,
my point of bringing this all up, let me just say this, babe.
Mm-hmm.
The point of bringing this all up is because when I came here, having to adapt to just orienting myself to a different existence, and relationship to directions, because it really was that. And in doing so, this area, Byron knows this is his homeland. Mm-hmm. And so for generations, his family has been here. And so he knows this area. He knows it very well. So I wasn't even using a GPS initially. You would just be giving me directions as though you were the GPS.
See, the problem with, and like I said before, I love it, you know, towards the water. But the problem from that is what if you didn't know which way the water was? Now what we would say, you know, it's like, okay, the way the wind is blowing from, you know, so you got some things, and you know what northerly wind feels like as opposed to westerly wind, or even southerly winds at that, you know.
Yeah, we don't pay attention to that though.
Yeah, no, I'm saying if you have the ability to open up your senses,
right,
your communication.
This is true. Yes, absolutely. Because when you're in Southern Cal, for instance, and you experience those winds in Southern Cal, it is different than Northern Cal winds.
Here's the other thing, though. At the same time, whereas we're asking sighted people to be, blind people need to be just as aware.
In what way?
Because we should not be expecting for any and everyone to know. This is not a universally designed system, culture.
It is not. And that is something that you as a blind person is more aware of than I am as a sighted person.
Yeah. It's like as a black kid growing up, you know, in Harvey, Illinois, you know, I'm aware of not having any money. I'm fully aware of that. I know what that experience is like.
Right.
And it's not the same as having money.
Right. And I'm aware of growing up in the South, in a small town, in Arkansas, and because it is a rural state, and because I guess of the level of poverty that could exist in the state, even though there's quite a bit of wealth there, during the time when I was growing up in the 70s, it was a very different time in that a man could work at a plant and be making enough money to sustain his household, because my grandmother didn't have to work. Like, she didn't work to really pay bills in the house. She paid the phone bill. So she wasn't working to be a big financial contributor to the house. And she would decorate things that she wanted, you know, specific little things that she wanted to get. And that was her independence, to just get what she wanted. But I find it to be, really interesting that, one of my good friends, one of my really close friends and cousins from that's also family from there and lived there for some time, we used to say that we were disadvantaged and we didn't know we were disadvantaged. That's how we reflect on it now. That's how we laugh about it now, because we were afforded whatever it was we wanted, but there was also a sense of limitation around what was possible, maybe, or what was really fully accessible to you.
That's really a beautiful thing.
Because we did not experience, I mean, we have more than enough.
Yeah.
There wasn't a sense of lack in that way. You weren't concerned about if you were going to have all the meals in a day, every day, all the time, consistently. The lights being on, all your utilities working. So, it's a perception around how you experience the world.
Yeah.
And what you expect from it.
I say it's beautiful because money can decouple you from it's another sense, and it's really a false sense.
Now speak. Now see. There you go. That's it.
Unless you're one of these cats out here that's got dozens and dozens of billions, even those. What happens when that's gone? What happens when it doesn't matter?
And that's the part that either one of those are kind of one and the same, or could be. But the latter one could even happen before the former.
Oh yeah. Oh, easily. Easily.
But the hope is that when that happens, I have a longer span left than everybody else's who runs out quickly.
Well, and then
that's the miscalculation.
That's the whole, yeah. Yeah.
Is that's how it will go.
Yeah, interesting. Scotch Trader Joe's, $20. Put it with your Nicaraguan tobacco. You'll be a happy camper.
So, your perspective on spirits. I think you have an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I like Dominican tobacco with tequilas. I like my favorite tobacco is, as far as wrapper leaves go, because wrapper leaf kind of holds the majority of the flavor. But it also depends on the filler and the binder. A cigar is made up of, at least premium rolled cigars, which are hand rolled, which this is hand rolled. They comprise of your filler leaf, which is a bundle, a bunch. It's a bunch of leaves, and then they're all binded together with a binder leaf, which is still. And this is cigar tobacco we're talking about. We're not talking about cigarette tobacco. Then the outside of the cigar, which you see, is the wrapper leaf, and that's where a lot of your taste come in at. One of the main reasons why that's why the taste come in is because that's the part that goes in your mouth. And so when you're pulling smoke through it, that's why the cut is so important. Not just because of the draw, but because also you want some of the taste of that leaf to intertwine with the smoke. And so that matters when you start pairing spirits. So I look at the bourbons. I'm really bourbon and Scotch, tequila. It's my three. And rye. I love rye. Also with Nicaraguan tobacco. Honduran tobacco, Ecuadorian tobacco, It just kind of depends on what it is, what region it's from. More of the shade grown stuff, you know, I like that with a little bit more mellow, um, uh, mellow spirits. I never really like to pair a cigar with a whiskey that's, you know, bourbon or scotch that's, you know, over 100 proof. I don't think I've even had a scotch over 100 proof. I don't even think I've never even heard of it really. I'm sure it exists somewhere. Um, but I started studying the process of spirits based on. I wanted to know what I was tasting. Again, paying attention to you know, all my faculties, and I wanted to be able to articulate, because as a blind person, here we go again, no blind thing. I want to be able to communicate with salesmen, saleswomen. You know what I'm checking into, what I like. You know, because I'm also down to experiment. So with spirits, a lot of times what I'm looking for, because I smoke cigars, you know, multiple times a week, I'm also looking for something that's gonna work well with the cigar, at least with cigars that I've tasted. So I'm always on the hunt. Buddy of mine, a couple of buddies of mine, one here in Indiana and one over in California, you know, we go into these modes where we look for inexpensive spirits that are really quality, which there's a ton of them out there. What's it called? Isolate. Yeah, isolate.
Storm.
Isolate Storm. Yeah. Amazing. PD Scotch. Kind of puts me in the mindset of maybe 82 to 85%. I mean 82 to 85 proof, not percent. Your proof is double your percent. So if it's 86%, then you know that's 43. That's 86 proof is 43% alcohol. So alcohol texture is a big thing for me. Again,
Say more about that. I mean, I guess you're getting ready to elaborate because that's an interesting statement.
like Belvini, like the older scotches become a little bit more velvety, feeling across the tongue. And when you know, I drink my spirits most of the time, 90% of the time neat. I'm just starting to get into this on the rock thing, you know, and one single rock at that, because I do not want to water down the experience. I appreciate the work that people put in to allow you to experience. And if it needs to express in a certain way, I want that expression. Like, I'm big on collaborations, and again, I wanted to express that as natural, in its natural form of behavior, right? Like, so I look at that like on not only in texture, but also in frequency, like in the studio and audio. You know, I like natural sounding things. You know, that's just my preference. I don't like it to be processed. You know, no sugar. You know, none of that stuff is added. You know, these are different mashes. You know, mash bills and stuff like that, which is just really grain, barley, things like that. You know, wheat, rye, and them fermented. Is all it is. It's nothing else added. Water as well. So velvety, and you got more thicker. Like some bourbons are really thick. super full body, robust. Uh, and then you got some really thin, you know, the cheaper it gets, the thinner it gets. One is really thin, which is the Jim Beam Double Oak. And it's really good, but it's like $13 for the fifth. You can get it at a drugstore. But it is amazing. It is, it's incredible. And it's the thinnest alcohol that I would drink.
Let me ask you something. How do you remember all these different specific alcohols and yes, also the different cigars? Just the same way. How? Let me ask you this, because this is really good. How long does it take you to memorize? Because I don't know if I weren't, if say for instance someone put 3 different lemonades in front of me and I were to taste them and they were all lemonades I've had before, if there were really distinctive differences between them, then I would probably know that. But if there were maybe some subtleties, I don't know that I would always notice, some of the subtleties. That may not be the best example, but
I mean,
and I hear what you're saying now. Like now I'm thinking about, okay, I could identify them based on texture, like Country Tom lemonade versus like the Fair lemonade versus say Crystal Light lemonade.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, or like if you like apple juices. Yeah, certain different apple juices, the brand, some are thicker than others. Some have a deeper spice content. But I don't know that I think about it that way. I don't think about it that way. Because the first thing that comes to mind when I think of them is this, I see it, the color. I think of that first.
The impression, right, that gets stamped into you. Usually it's much deeper when it's close to your passion, and things that you're really interested in, and they have more of an impression on your psyche, on your just on your overall being. So those things become really easy. So. Like as a blind person, I want to know where I am. I'm very interested in the environment. I have to be. That forces me to memorize where I am. What it sounds like. It's just like a person saying, "Oh yeah, I remember this," when they look at something. Yeah, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
But you remember it
without
in different
looking at
ways.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it has to. You have to have an interest.
Because if most sighted people, if you blindfolded them and took them to a particular intersection, or on a particular corner or in front of a store,
Mm-hmm.
and then started to tell them to navigate someplace, they wouldn't be able to.
And that's because they're limited to the eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they place, again, believability. They place trust. They place flexibility. They place prejudices, all these things, so many different areas of value into the eyesight and not into the entire package. And so if I'm going to remember something, I already know what it's going to take for me really to remember it. That's because I'm exercising more of, more of my DNA hard drive. I'm exercising more of my communication channels. I think a lot of blind people are like that. Now, sighted people do the same. They do the same thing now. So, I ain't gonna say they don't. And so right now, what I'm doing is looking for the seam on this ring band. I'm about to take it off.
And just FYI, you're at 1 hour.
Oh yeah. Found it. See, so taking this off. This has got a lot of glue on it. Sometimes you gotta be really careful. And this is another good reason to wait till you get down this close to it. So because what it's doing is the temperature of the cigar is gonna heat this glue that's keeping that ring band intact, so that you're not tearing off your wrapper leaf. And voila, there you go. It's a really cool thing. So now we're gonna smoke this joke all the way down. I'm about, getting into this last third in a few minutes here. So I'm in the second third of the stick. But memorizing this stuff. I took a econ. I took both macro and micro, which micro was much harder to me. Economics, and although I took notes, never looked at a chalkboard. Of course, I couldn't see it. It's in college, of course, and got like 103 in those classes, and the teacher was blown away. It was like, how do you sit here and do that? And I said, oh man, because life is a passion for me. Because that's all economics is to study the science of scarcity. I'm used to that. That's my thing, At one point, scarce on money. Another point, scarce on eyesight. Another point, scarce on, real friendships around you, Yeah, but yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you memorize things. Because it's very difficult to memorize stuff that you're not interested in. So, what I would say, if I was to offer any advice, is get interested in everything. Curiosity is curiosity is a 3D dream, It is a cosmic gift to you. And once you do that, you'll start to see that you start to invite things into your existence, like memory. Because I look at memory like videotape or something, like Memorex. We talked about that the other day.
Yeah. And for me, I think as a writer, and taking the writing classes, one of the things that was really impressed, upon us, and that did help my writing, was to begin to focus on the other senses and making sure that you include all of the senses in your writing, specifically because it allows the reader to then be able to experience what you're experiencing, because experience is through the body. And setting, place was a big portion of that. The importance of describing a place, as opposed to someone writing about, just what they're thinking or what they're doing without also showing the setting. Because that really evokes the senses. And I remember sitting outside to train myself to listen, to just hear what sounds were around me, and then to how do I describe those sounds, and then what do I feel, and just to really pay attention to how much I notice just the wind blowing against my skin, and what direction it's coming from, and where is it touching and where is it not touching. And do I feel the heat of the sun? And where do I feel that? And how does what I'm sitting on feel to my body? Is it a hard surface? And all of those kind of things, just really becoming much more embodied. Do I notice any smells? And then, okay, how do I describe that smell if I do, if I wanted someone else to understand or relate to my experience or something I'm trying to show them?
Yeah.
Usually my writing is not focused really on the sensory. I just utilize the sensory experience to then have someone to share my experience, because it's usually some awareness or revelation or something that I've come into,
Yeah.
which is a point of why I'm writing. And then utilizing those things to then allow someone a world, a bridge in.
Yeah, even that exercise that you had me doing helped me to articulate. You know, you was like, yeah, remember now when you was at your grandmother's house and you were, you know, and Busha snatched your jelly sandwich, the German Shepherd, snatched your jelly sandwich through the fence. What was the smells? What do you remember the smell? Probably the old dog food that was mixed in the bowl with the rain in it. I don't know. The dog that stayed outside. You know. But yeah, to articulate that really is a really amazing concept, especially when it comes to universal design. With a book that's written like that, or a dialogue that's written like that, in a visual presentation, like a film or something. You know, there's no need for audio description.
Which is something we've been working on, right?
Yeah, because your pieces, that's why it's easy for me to sound design around your pieces. It's because you're painting this image. Now, I've had sight, so I bring those images into what I remember. People are passionate about their eyesight, so that's why they remember with it more so than anything, right? A lot of people can see. But if you've never seen before, you know, and you say, I was riding a bike, it was sunny. It felt like my skin was melting off my, you know, I don't know how they would interpret that in audio. You know what I'm saying? Which now, that's interesting to me. So they may say, "Oh yeah, I know what a bike sounds like." So yeah, I'm gonna put the bike sound in there. The squeak, 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 the pedals, the chain, you know, all that stuff. Even the tires, you know, when you come down and hit a curb and you're going off into the street, you know, that kind of thing. They may put all that stuff in there. Who knows? But that's something that they've learned. You know, they haven't seen it. Which may not be the best example, but point is...
It's a good example, actually.
Well, I think point is
like,
that,
how do you identify a bike? Right? And sighted people think you identify a bike by what it looks like, but you're showing there's a completely different way to identify the presence of a bike.
I'm going to tell you some of the best bike sound ever created on film that I've ever heard.
Okay.
Was on Friday with Debo.
That was good. It was super suspenseful, and now this is really dope because I almost want to go back and watch it again.
You remember
just to listen
when he
to
be
that.
coming up the block?
Yes.
Hey, your chain, fool. Smoke it. Come here. What's wrong with you? You know, it's like, hey, nah, none of that was cool. But that damn bike sound was amazing. It's an excellent job.
No, that's wow. That's wow.
I'll tell you another.
Now, did you have sight when you watched that movie? or have you experienced it with sight and
I
without?
think I did, because then Chris Tucker have a hat on backwards or something.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I did. I do. It was a blue hat.
Yes, I do think so.
Yeah, I think I saw it. And the girl that was supposed to be Janet Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she wasn't supposed to be, but she said she looked like Janet Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah.
She had braids, right?
She did.
Yep, I definitely remember that movie. Yeah. I don't think I saw. I think I saw the second one. I know I definitely didn't see the third one. But
Did you listen to the third one?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
And the second one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I lightweight remember looking at the second one, Uncle Elroy. And they had the pool, but the pool didn't have no water in it, right? And I remember Rage being in there, and I remember her running around his car. Because he had a BMW, Mike Epps.
Was it blue?
I thought the BMW was black. That's what I thought.
I think you're right. Oh, that's interesting. Now, this is so funny, too, because I did this whole movie game some years ago, like 2010, with all these, like, fascinating little details between movies, because at that time, my memory of them was really sharp. Like, I had, like, a goal for myself. I was like, I'm going to do 10 questions a day for 30 days, and then I'll have 300 questions for this game. I did 500 questions in, like, 4 days, 4 to 5 days. And they were really great questions. Like, they were not, unthoughtful questions. Some of them were designed to be easier to remember, but also like a joy to remember.
Yeah.
Something that made you happy to remember it. Most of it did. And so, but it's funny now because I noticed with the last few years, my memory around the answers to those games, when I read those questions now, like I did probably a couple years ago, I was like, dang, I need to go back and watch these movies. I don't, a lot of these I don't recall anymore. It was just like something shifted, where things went into the archives. And I don't know exactly what that tipping point was, but things went into some archives.
Well, I think even more detailed the questions could be around multi-sensory. Will start to open people up.
That might be, something? That really may be a key component. Well, this is it. There is a portion, though, that is specifically around movie quotes. And so there's no description of what people look like. It's just the quotes.
Yeah.
Who said what, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, even things that's, happening in the background,
Now, that is really, 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 really something. That'd be dope. See, this is a whole nother reason why it would be really fun to go back and watch those movies now, to refresh memory around the questions, but also to then get these other sensory parts of the movie that oftentimes aren't being paid attention to.
Yeah, because if you go to Audio Vault and listen to the movie, because it's an MP3, so MP3s are not videos. The files just doesn't contain the video, but they got the audio compressed to an MP3 file, which listen to that.
Now, that's an amazing thing for sighted people to do. That's an amazing thing. Yeah.
I mean, even creating, questions.
Yeah, from listening to that. No. I get it. I completely get it. But I'm saying too, just as a wider activity, because we were thinking about different things that sighted people could do to experience an experience of blindness.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Yeah, it's it's going to help people communicate too better, incoming, outgoing. It's probably going to also help with relationships. Men, historically, young lady comes in with a a dress, new dress on, and she's expecting him to notice, and he's like, "Hey, babe," unless it's got a low cut front on it or something, he ain't gonna know. Now this may open that up. Man, that smell like new clothes in here. Babe, is that a new dress?
You helping some folks out for real.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing, New fingernail polish, you can smell it. Baby, you got your nails done? Ooh, they look good, baby. Oh, thank you for noticing. That kind of thing, Yeah, consideration is it's a lost art. It's becoming more and more of a lost art. We're becoming more decoupled again, from, I think when we start leaving the barter system, you start decoupling, from humans, the human experience.
You and I have had these conversations, but I would say I think that's a good thing to elaborate on. It's always nice to, for me to hear the perspectives again, because sometimes you say the same things in different ways and with an added or, additional dimension or, perspective on it.
Yeah, the barter system makes you, it forces you to pay attention to what people really have to offer. You don't care what they look like. You don't care what they smell like. Oh, you know how to build a house? Man, I know how to make stoves. My brother knows how to lay carpet. Man, that's hooked some really nice spots up,
So that's very interesting, because it's, when you were saying, decoupling, I was thinking, yes, it's a desensitization.
Yep.
And we're desensitized in so many ways. And we don't even think about the way of reintegration around it, or the way back to fullness is even through paying attention through the senses and becoming more present and aware to what we're not noticing.
Sure.
And this is a pretty sensory rich area. There's lots of bird song,
Bell songs.
You can hear the wind blowing through leaves.
Yep.
You can hear the rain, and you can hear the rain falling on it's different on a lot of different surfaces.
Grain silo, which is something you don't normally hear.
The train.
The doggone train. It used to be that you hear the train horn.
Right. Yeah, at certain periods that was really something. I didn't know if I was gonna make it through. But wow.
I want to sleep in the studio. I'm like, no, why?
This is too much. But yeah, and then the relationship to it can change once you just kind of go into another level of acceptance around how you can adapt to what is, and what you can't change right now. And then by the time it stopped, it wasn't even bothering me anymore. In that way. But I was happy it stopped. Initially I was like, dang, I wish I had known it was the last time I was gonna hear it, because I would have recorded it the last time, right? So more from almost that experience. And then also just even like, this is again around directionality. Which direction is the train coming from?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that one that's not a simple one to do.
It's not, no. Unless you're standing right at the track. Off in the distance, you're not gonna know. Unless, guess what? Unless you know which way the ocean is.
There are flags.
Yeah. There's flags, there's bugs, there's birds, there's wildlife.
There were cicadas in the summer.
Man,
the double brood.
The double brood.
There are concerts.
Mm. Yeah.
There are kids outside laughing and playing.
Yeah, on the playground.
Mm-hmm.
Grass cut.
Mm-hmm.
You rarely hear sirens. We probably hear a fire or a police siren. I don't know the last time I've heard a police siren. I think it's probably been maybe about 6 or 7 years. But fire department, which is a block away, and the police department is a block away. Fire department, I think fire sirens I've heard, fire truck maybe 6 times a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been here a little over a year, so.
You hear motorcycles all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And because it's so open, you can hear it leaving if it's heading west. And because the wind is blowing from out of the west, it's blowing the sound back to you.
And I still don't hear that as well. I still haven't tuned into that sound. We've talked about it, but I haven't tuned into that yet.
Yeah, that you could hear that for 10 minutes, which is extraordinary. Which is why, like, when we was watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith and the opening, and they just jumped up, like, what are they doing? And went inside, locked the door. But they heard coming from afar a car.
Mm-hmm.
And Soup had sent the high level to get rid of, to exterminate, or whatever they call it.
Finalize.
Yeah, we're coming down into the last 15 minutes of this stick. Cigars normally heat up when you get down here. Some people don't like to take it down till they burn their fingers. Sometimes I do, depending on the experience. This is a really good. I gotta tell you, the Amaforte is in my top 3 of best cigars. Behind the Andalusian, was it Andalusian Bull?
Mm-hmm.
And the God of Fire. Which are both Dominican tobacco. Don Carlos, and then the Andalusian Bull. I don't know. I think I feel like LFD makes that.
I think these are things that need to go into your journal, your ledger, your cigar ledger.
What's that?
Your favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And what you remember about those first experiences. What makes them your favorites. It'd be interesting to have a ranking, actually. What your ranking system would look like. What it would be what it's based on.
Mm-hmm. Throw that smoke down into the whiskey. Let it infuse the already smoky scotch. You know, it's weird because getting down in here, you get like notes of like berry, like some citrusy notes. I got that up top too, but more on the Amaforte up top. I kind of get, which is interesting for Nicaraguan tobacco to me, is especially Esteli. You got like Jalapa. You got you got the different regions in Nicaragua, and for the Esteli, tobacco. I get bread a lot of time up top, like bread, like a bakery, like fresh bread, not like Wonder Bread, more like wheat bread actually. I think when we do the one on Rocky, I think we'll I think we will I don't know what I'm gonna smoke there. It's gonna be something out his humidor though.
That was pretty amazing today to
That was
out of the blue
incredible.
decide to do a video with Rocky highlighting him and wanting to go into the store to tell him and what happened. I'm gonna
He was really moved by that.
his part. He was.
I appreciate that.
He really was. So what happened? You know, when you went in, we went in because I was like, really? Are you sure you want to do this today? Because I was like, whew, feeling like I was coming down with something and might want to, kind of get back in.
Yeah.
But you said, okay, you wanted to do this. I'm like, okay, let's go. And bam, what happened?
This happened. The blind man's dream. The freaking blind man's dream for a guillotine cut. Wow. The best cutter I have right now to date. That I've ever had, really.
And so, Rocky, how did that come to be your new cutter?
We go in the store and he was like, I got something for you. I'm gonna wait till you check out. I didn't go in there to buy a stick. I just went in there to tell him. And I said, well, I'm here on a very specific subject matter, which is I want to record for blind awareness how you as a salesman, a store owner of a cigar retailer in the cigar retail business, how you service your blind customers. You know, the things that you do, the accommodations that you provide, all those types of things that really makes the experience of a blind person trust. And he really went and studied a lot about sticks. After my first encounter, third, fourth encounter with him. So my knowledge is, I would say I'm an enthusiast. So my knowledge is probably more than most, not as much as others, but it's enough to make a salesman really get in and understand that I'm there to, experience and not just purchase some sticks, And so he found this particular cutter somewhere. I told him, I said, man, you should get a cutter with a backstop on it. I said, I would buy it if you had that, because I can't find any decent ones. I gave mine to another blind friend of mine, and so he could experience it, and that's all he uses now. And he was like, oh, okay. And I showed him what I was talking about. And he came with this one. And then he didn't really know exactly what I was looking for in a cutter with a backstop. But a lot of V cutters do have backstops, obviously, because they got to kind of cradle the head. And then, because when the blade comes across and slices the tobacco, it needs to do it at a certain percentage of tobacco that is severing. So he didn't really know. But when he showed me that, I was like, oh my God. And I told him what I wanted to do, and he was excited about the mission. So you watching this and you're blind, get you a cutter. If you're getting a guillotine cutter, which works for most any cigars, every cigar actually, not punches and stuff like that, punch cutters and scissor cutters and V cutters don't work for every vitola. So, but one like this, a guillotine cut that has a backstop, works for every single cigar. So if you need a one-trick pony, get that. There are a lot of blind cigar smokers. They're friends of mine. New York and Atlanta and Texas. I don't know any other blind smokers in Chicago, which is interesting. But not saying there is none, but I just don't know them. Indiana. And everybody has a technique that works. But the way that I lit this cigar really, as you could tell, worked well. It did not canoe. It didn't get really wonky at all. It burned really razor sharp, which also lets you know that the construction is amazing, which is why you spend a little bit more on your cigars. If you don't have to, because go to cigar page, go somewhere like that, go to cigar.com. You can get really good deals on really well made, well constructed cigars.
And are you being paid by cigar.com or cigarpage.com?
Nah, this is just to help the folks out. And that's not why we're doing this, right? We're not doing it for money or anything like that. Just awareness. Yeah.
And the cigar piece just happens to just be something that Byron is passionate about, something that he has, relaxes into really great conversation, which is a common thread all the time. But it is a particularly different experience with smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
So we wanted to share his passion, something he's passionate about, along with, blind awareness.
Yeah.
It's not something that you oftentimes think of, a blind person, how they would engage with cigars, lighters.
Mm-hmm. And now I can tell that the burn is becoming a little too much. I can feel the heat. Plus two, I smelled it, right? It smells a little, it's a sweeter burn, which lets me know that the tobacco is probably heating up too much. You want to keep the temperature, which, drawing on the stick every 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Makes sense. That's why you saw me do like this, and I did like this, and I'm trying to see if there was something else in the air that was burning in the environment, but it was the cigar. And that let me know that gave me a real gauge on I'm smoking it too fast, especially down at the end. Again, paying attention,
What are some other things, that you might say that blind people pay attention to that sighted people do not?
Emotions.
How do you mean emotions?
Um, we talk about this at times. People look at you and they'll think a certain something. Blind people are paying attention to the real energy. Very difficult to hide in your voice your intention. Yeah, okay, cool, yeah. Words, especially in the English language, seem to be because you can write them on a piece of paper, and it's a straight lie. It's straight non-truth. But can you effectively do that at a consistent rate? Be at a non-truth in your verbal communication? I don't think people can do that. I don't think humans have enough wherewithal in their own existence to do that.
So, meaning then that you can't maintain the frequency of a lie
Right.
for a long period of time without being discovered?
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly. I think another thing we pay attention to is we're walking places. Obviously, like we said earlier, the sound, the acoustics, stuff that's behind us, stuff that's in front of us, to the side of us. Since I'm in the audio, I'm also, I pay attention to believability in the audio, I pay attention to good performances. You can, just because the person's yelling and screaming doesn't mean that they really mean it.
Say more about that.
Gospel music, rock music, where they really go vocally to a place.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when people are singing in a more quiet tone, volume, it's you can digest that spiritually. I think of the gospel song. I think it's Marvin Sapp.
Mm-hmm.
You just start screaming right there. You feel that, Everybody like it when you start screaming. Yeah, okay. But what makes you cry is that silence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's another thing I think blind people adhere to is silence. Every human does. In the silence is the true linguistic.
Mm-hmm.
That's where your linguistic acrobats happens in the silence called cadence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I say it all the time. I'm teaching drums to somebody. I'm like, I'm teaching you that, your sticks are in the air 90% more than they're on the drum. Somebody who's talking a whole lot, saying a whole bunch of stuff, they seem nervous to me. Why are you nervous? Well, you probably could figure out if you just stand there and talk to that person for a while longer. Remaining constant. Another thing, one of the things blind people can't do is lie on their face because they don't see it, especially a person who's never had sight. because they think you can't see. That's a blind person's limitation. Just because they can't see you, they think you can't see them. You know, that's why they be over there like this. People
Wait, do that again. I did not get that on the hold on, do that.
What's wrong with that cat? Oh, he's blind. It's okay. But they're doing it because it's a self-soothing. They're in a rhythm, you know.
Why is that rhythm and self-soothing important, particularly in that way, in a physical way, right?
I think it's blind intelligence. I think it's not blind. I think it's biointelligence.
Now, okay, I'm with you on that. It was interesting though, because I've seen it more, obviously, because since I've been married to you, and I've been around a lot more blind people, you know, than ever. Even like at a conference where everybody, I mean, the vast majority of people there are blind.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen a lot of different, you know, blind behaviors just from being in one immersive experience.
Yeah.
And then around other, you know, people. So to a sighted person, it doesn't look soothing. I think it being rhythmic, it may sound soothing because it's rhythmic, but it may seem like it would be jarring. Some of it.
Yeah.
Or it would be distracting to someone who was sighted.
And a sighted person really should look at that as, that's that person's rhythm.
And that's an interesting thing.
Because you can't look at somebody's heart. You can't look at someone's internal energy so much, especially another sighted person, because they're more so worried about how they are perceived. So they're going to hide that for the moment. Now be around them for 2-3 days. You'll see it then.
What will you see?
Their rhythm, their natural rhythm as they interact with the world, with the environment.
Okay, give me an example. I would say mine, but I don't know if I want to say mine, and I don't know if I want to say it right now. But just give a random person. Give an example of somebody's rhythm that you have seen.
I can give an
it
example.
Could even be mine.
I can give yours. I mean, when you're driving,
mm-hmm.
the way you turn the steering wheel and the way your hands are on the steering wheel. The way, I hear your hands. Some people will turn the car, and they'll let the steering wheel turn itself straight when they're going into when you turn the curve,
mm-hmm.
and then you just let the steering wheel turn on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you let it slip through your hands.
Mm-hmm.
That feels good.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Breathing. Talking. People who yell at blind people. Hey, Byron, how are you? We right here. That tells me that you're probably not that accustomed. I can hear when they're lifting weights. The anxiety.
How do you hear the anxiety in the lifting?
Weightlifting, I think, should be therapeutic as much as it is a physical contribution, you know what I'm saying, to self, right? But when you zipping through, oh man, this person's probably in a hurry, or this person is high anxiety, You know, they're probably getting a lot of aggression out. You know, this person's really relaxed when they're lifting. You know, just the cadence in which, you know, they're pumping the weight.
So you're saying that's indicative of something other than how focused they are, their capacity to lift the weight.
All of that is included. All of that is part of the person's perspective.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people see this, they're gonna say, well, what does Soleil look like? She sounds super pretty. Sounds super intelligent. You know, they're making a judgment now based on what you sound like, words you're saying.
And that's very interesting because that wasn't an intentional component of me not being physically in the video.
Well, that's what happens when you're doing it for the right reason.
Right. So you got the bells, you got the train.
Yeah.
Should maybe not said that. Maybe we should just ask the question, like, you know, what sounds can you hear in our environment? Well, they're getting the chimes. Maybe we should ask, how many different sounds have you heard over in the first 15 minutes, in the first 30 minutes, in the entire thing?
Or even now while the train is going.
Right.
How many sounds can you hear? And I'll be quiet. That's the thing about the flatlands. Being in the plains, you can, you know how you can see for miles.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear for miles.
And now seeing for miles is also different when it snows. Is hearing different? Is the sound well, I know sound does have a huge effect. Snow, different. like when you go to the snow, how things sound is really, really, really
it's magical.
Yeah, it really, really is. You want to sound an amazing sound experience? There are plenty of them all around anyway, but go to the snow.
Go in the cornfields out in the middle of nowhere, and that stillness will, if you're used to like city sounds or stuff like that, it will recalibrate you. It'll reorganize the crystals in your brain. I think I'm gonna pull on this stick maybe 2-3 more times. I think I'm good.
So that sounds like something people should put on their bucket list.
Get out to some open, quiet snow.
Cornfields in the snow.
I would say so. Yes, amazing experience. I guess we'll see y'all on the next video, huh?
So that completes this episode of Connecting the Dots, Illuminating the Blind Spots. Or what are we going to call it? Is this Uniquely Abled Angles? Both?
Well, I will say, let blind awareness make you aware of your blind spots.
There you go.